Hey YouTube, welcome back to my channel. This is Nathan Daley. I am your law enforcement translator. I am here as a 13-year veteran in law enforcement to give you insight on difficult topics involving this country, especially those involving law enforcement. Listen, what are we talking about tonight, you guys? We're going to talk about the Breonna Taylor case, right? So listen, let me give you a little backstory. When this incident first happened, you guys, I was out, I was still injured, trying to recover. I spent the majority of my time really diving into this case because it really sparked my interest. And I'm gonna tell you why, because there's a lot of corruption taking place in this case. I'm gonna point them out for you. I never had a chance to even talk about this case in depth, so I will be doing it in this video. And the reason why we're talking about this tonight is because one of the officers involved in the shooting that led to the death of Breonna Taylor is on trial this week. They're preparing their closing arguments this week, and the jury will come to a conclusion by the end of this week, I believe, whether or not he will be found guilty or not guilty. We're talking about Officer Brett Hankison, or former Officer Hankison. He is being charged. He's the only one that was charged with wanton endangerment, 3 counts, which also can get him at least about 2 to 5 years in prison. So what's going on, you guys? Unfortunately, he's not being charged for the death of Breonna Taylor. He's actually being charged for actually endangering the neighbors of Breonna Taylor when he recklessly shot into the home. Those bullets went through the home and went to the neighbor's home. He's being charged for that. No one was charged for the death of Breonna Taylor. Listen, and who is responsible for that, you guys? It's Daniel Cameron, right? He is the Attorney General for Kentucky, you guys. He pulled it off. How did he do it? Listen, you guys, for those who don't understand how this thing works, right? Corruption's a real thing. As we know, it happens all throughout government. It's a big issue. He wasn't able to do it on his own. He had help. And I wonder who helped him. I wonder who pulled the strings. I wonder who had the influence and the power to actually pull this off. You know, at the end of the day, he had help, you guys. Listen, the puppet always has a puppeteer. Listen, we're not going to dive into it because I don't want this channel to become an issue for anybody. But I do want to point out the little things so you guys understand that these things are always bigger than the person that we see, right? So what are we looking at? What are the issues? I'm going to give you my professional opinion. I'm going to tell you where everything went wrong, just in case you're not aware of the details. I'm going to tell you why I feel the way that I feel from a professional standpoint. I'm not going to give you my personal. My personal is irrelevant. Professional, we had 3 officers. We actually had more than 3 officers at the scene. But for the sake of this conversation, we had 3 officers that actually fired into the apartment, right? We had 2 officers at the front, and we had Officer Hankison at the side window, the sliding glass. What happened? Whether they knocked or they did not knock, we don't know. They can't prove it. They can't prove it. This is why body cams are important. They're here to protect the officer. And they're also here to protect the citizen. It keeps everybody honest. But what's the reality? What took place? We don't know whether or not they knocked or not. And if we had that information, we would be able to justify things a little bit more differently. What is the problem when we get to the root issue of this entire situation, you guys? Here's the problem in a nutshell. The officers, they lied. The one who was securing the search warrant for Breonna Taylor's home, her apartment, he lied on the warrant. He lied to actually get the warrant signed by the judge. That's the first issue. What did he lie about, you guys? I have a copy of the warrant. We're going to pull it up. I'm going to show you this line on this warrant where he talks about he got confirmation from the postal inspector, you guys, the federal agency. They investigate postal crimes, right? I've worked with them before. They're pretty awesome. They have a lot of cool gadgets and stuff. You'd be surprised. What do you have to do to get a search warrant? You have to connect this particular house to the drug dealer. The drug dealer lives at another location. The investigation showed that the drug dealer's girlfriend, they had a history. We're talking about Breonna Taylor. They were no longer together. But see, the investigation, the detectives, the narcotics detectives, did a horrible job with their intel, with their investigation. Here's the issue. The suspect, her ex-boyfriend, lives at another location. They want a search warrant for a house he does not live at. They have to now try and tie him to her house. How do you do it with the search warrant? They need evidence. They had no evidence, you guys. So what did he do? They end up telling the judge, and they wrote in their affidavit, which is the application for the search warrant, and they said that the suspect aka the drug dealer, was having packages delivered to her home. And he would go there and get the package and take it back to the drug house. They are tying him to the house. But here's the thing, just because he's getting a box, they have to be able to prove it. How do they prove it? They need the address on that box. They need a way to prove that there's items going to her home that is in his name using that address. That's how you tie the two together. So what do they have to do? They have to go to the postal inspector in order to verify the routes, to verify the information, you guys. It's a lot of work. It's not that easy. What did they do? In the document, in the affidavit, the detective, one of the detectives, actually lied and said that he got confirmation from the postal inspector saying that the drug dealer's name is attached to the box. The box is attached to Breonna Taylor's address, and therefore they need a search warrant because now they have included this nexus. They connected the pieces, and they believe that there's evidence that supports the crime of drug trafficking at the home. Listen, they were not looking for an arrest. They weren't looking to arrest him. They were looking for evidence. Here's the problem. They're doing these search warrants after midnight for documents. Make it make sense. It doesn't make sense, and that's the problem. The big issue is that the suspect that they were looking for, the suspect they had charges for, the drugs they were looking for was at the suspect's house. And they knew that information. Why is this a problem? Well, you guys, how this thing works, as officers and investigators, before we do a operation, we get together and we talk about it. We have a whole thing, we call it a briefing. We break it down, we go over all the evidence, we talk about the plan, and we run through it. Make sure everybody's on the same page. The narcotics unit, they provide the evidence, and the SWAT team is the one that does the execution of the warrant. Right? They do the no-knock, the knocks, they kick the door open, they do all the fun stuff. The detectives are there, they do the paperwork. What happened? There was only one house that was supposed to be hit that night. That night, early into the morning, only one house, which is the suspect's house, Breonna Taylor's ex-boyfriend. Here's the problem, you guys. Nobody knew that anybody was at Breonna Taylor's house. The detectives didn't tell anybody. Mind you guys, this is a small little narcotics unit. Think of them like Training Day, right? With Denzel Washington, his group. You guys, this is exactly what they were doing. They were up to no good. You have the SWAT commander who's in charge of the operation. Didn't even know the narcotics unit was going to take themselves over to Breonna Taylor's house and kick the door in. You guys, they weren't supposed to be there. Here's the problem, you guys. This is corruption 101. What were they going over there for? I believe they were going over there to look for some money. They probably thought Breonna Taylor's was a stash house, more than likely. They thought that's where the cash was stashed at. Drug dealers oftentimes don't put the cash and the drugs in the same location. Often they don't. I bet they assumed the cash was there. But mind you, the 3 officers who fired those shots, they weren't the only ones there. There was other supervisors with them. You guys, they didn't have the equipment, they didn't have the training to do what they did at Breonna Taylor's house. They didn't have a ballistic shield. We talked about this before in the Mirror Locks video. There was no ballistic shield. You have these guys going in here without communicating to anybody. There was only supposed to be one house hit. The house where the drug dealer actually stayed at. The place where the drugs were actually at. They told nobody. It's very unfortunate, you guys, but that's part of corruption. You know, these are things that we talk about, that there's a small percentage of corrupt officers, corrupt units that operate in these police departments. This is a known thing. And it's unfortunate. It's very unfortunate. Why do I say the unit's corrupt? I mean, case in point, exactly what they did. Another thing, they try to cover it up, as we all know. Here's the problem, right? So now we're going to go, let's go to Breonna Taylor's house. What are my issues with this incident? Outside of the fact that it was poorly executed, they had no reason to be there, and they lied on the warrant. You guys, that's bad all across the board. The fact that they were able to clean this up is just beyond me. But let's stick to it. Let's get back to it. What happened? They forced entry into the home. Whether they knocked or they did not knock, it doesn't matter, right? We don't know. A resident inside the home fired a shot at the police, okay? One of the officers got shot, they fired back. There's nothing wrong with that piece right there, you guys. There's nothing wrong with it. The issue that I have in this entire situation is the lack of control, the lack of trigger discipline that these officers showed. Over 32 plus rounds they shot into the home, you guys. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. They empty clips into that house. Complete disregard for anybody else around them. They had no clue of where those bullets were going. Not only that, initially in their initial statement, they talked about it was completely dark. They couldn't see anything. All they saw was a muzzle flash. They had no idea who was holding the gun. They had no idea where the perpetrator was. They had no idea where the person was who actually fired. Listen, they shot the place up, as you already know. I'm going to pull up a photo the FBI provided, and I want you to look at exactly the trajectory of the bullets that went through the home. And it looks crazy, you guys. In the back hallway, you see Breonna Taylor. She was riddled with bullets. These officers from outside the apartment were shot at once, yet they shot at everything. By the grace of God, nobody else was hit and killed in these neighboring apartments. How do we not see anything wrong with this? I'm going to tell you from a law enforcement perspective, there's a lot wrong with this. I'm going to tell you with the first one. Outside of all the illegal ways that they got forced entry into this home, we're going to focus on the officer's behavior. What issue did I have with this, even from a policy standpoint? You guys, no trigger discipline is the first one. What do I mean by that? You completely lose yourself in the moment. You're out of control. You're squeezing the trigger so much, you have no idea who you're shooting at. What's the other issue? A lack of target identification. They don't even know who they were shooting at. Where's the threat? Did you identify the threat? What they say on the trial, they actually had the training officer talk about this. And they said, listen, pretty much what he said was, everything about this shooting is absolutely against the policies, absolutely against what we train. Not only that, they are not trained to shoot in the dark, in the darkness. They're trained to use their flashlights. No flashlight was used at all. No one knows who they shot. They saw a muzzle flash and they just shot, you guys. That's not how we're trained. That's reckless. That's reckless. And because of their reckless behavior, someone lost their life. They're trying to justify this, and I hate when I hear officers lean on this. I was afraid. Fear, my fear. Man, come on. You know, and the people are tired of hearing that. This fear that's manifested because of a lack of training. What imbeciles. I couldn't believe it. I could not believe it. When you see the photos of the apartment, you see where these bullets went. You wonder how anyone else did not get killed during this shooting. It makes you wonder. It completely blows my mind. I don't understand why. And people wonder why. They are so irritated, so frustrated, and some people hate the police. You wonder how people come to these conclusions. It's because of these situations right here that people don't want to address properly. We cannot walk around here like we are above the law. We cannot walk around here as if we are above accountability, you guys. We have a lot of power in this profession. Could you imagine? You have all the power and you have to discipline yourself. People are tired. People are irritated. Now listen, I know, like a lot of officers know, that there are a lot more successful encounters with law enforcement. But when we talk about the ones that get all the media attention and we start breaking it down and you start seeing them lie, you start seeing them being deceptive, you start seeing them cover things up, you guys, it's not okay. It's not acceptable. It really is not acceptable. And these are the things, even as me as a law enforcement advocate, I'm going to speak out against because it's wrong. And it's obviously wrong. And not only that, this has nothing to do with color from my perspective. I could care less about the color situation. You guys, listen, beyond color, right is right and wrong is wrong. The officers were wrong. They're wrong from the beginning. And shame on those who say, oh, she dated a criminal. Oh, she put herself in this situation. You guys, none of those things are justifications for a death sentence. And as police officers, we have to stop. And as citizens, please, 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 stop lowering the standard for officers. You know, stop. It's irritating to hear that. As if we're not good enough to do better. As if we're not qualified enough to do better. As if we can't rise to the expectations that society has. There's too many excuses, you guys. I'm tired. So tired of it. That's why my ideas on reform are going to bring about better change, going to bring about higher quality officers, better pay, better all around everything, because we need it. We cannot give individuals this much power yet make this much excuses for them. What these officers did was unacceptable. Completely unacceptable. They lost control. They were too fearful. They were reckless. They were deceptive, deceitful. They lied. They tried to cover information up. You know, and just because no one else or any children, what if a child got shot? We'd have a totally different, there would be no way, there'd be no way they could spin this whatsoever. But they try to spin it, or they did spin it off the back of her boyfriend, saying if he didn't shoot, this would have never happened. No, if the officers were better trained, if the officers were not deceptive and deceitful and didn't lie, this would have never happened. The officers had no business there at her apartment. They did a no-knock warrant for quote-unquote documents. Guys, it's a joke. It's a joke. Then you have Officer Hankison. He's on the outside. And this guy just shoots his life away. He's just shooting all through windows. Ridiculous. You pull the map up, you just see what he did. Ridiculous. It's unacceptable. All right, so the FBI testified on trial that the two officers in the front, there were bullets from their guns that actually went up into the apartment above Breonna Taylor. They should have also been charged with wanton endangerment. Any bullet that left that area and went into a neighboring unit, they should have been charged appropriately. Not only that, the FBI was able to determine that Cosgrove was the one who delivered the shot that actually killed Breonna Taylor. How come he wasn't charged, you guys? What was the appropriate charge? A charge that was never presented to the grand jury. Thanks to Cameron. Right? Reckless homicide, you guys. What is reckless homicide? Read Kentucky state charge. It's perfect. This is the one that applies. And I'm not saying this guy should be thrown into prison for 20 years. I'm saying he should be held accountable for the reckless act, the lack of due regard that these officers showed, the excessive use of force that these officers showed. Why do I say excessive, you guys? They saw no target. There was no target identification per policy. They need that. They could not prove, or they do not know who the person was that was the actual threat. You cannot shoot someone without seeing them. You cannot shoot blindly in the dark. You guys, we're not trained that way. We're not supposed to do that. And the danger that you put everybody around you in for doing such recklessness, you guys. And because it was reckless, again, was the officer justified in returning fire? Yes, returning fire to a target that, one, you can see, two, that you've identified as a threat, and three, that you have confidence that you can shoot. They shot with no light. It was dark. All they saw was a flash, and they put 32 rounds in the house. What's the appropriate charge for the death of Breonna Taylor? A charge that Cameron should have presented to the grand jury, you guys. It is Kentucky state charge, reckless homicide. What does it say? A person is guilty of reckless homicide when, with recklessness, he causes the death of another person. Very simple, very straightforward. It doesn't take rocket science. Listen, these guys know what they're doing. These officers were protected. I don't know what to tell you. I have no answers for you. But we do know as a community, just overall in this nation, that we have to be honest. We have to be willing to be transparent. And in this moment, I'm being honest with you guys, I don't agree with that shoot. I don't. They would have been better off holding the officers accountable, Let them pay their dues. Let them do their time. And I'm not saying that it wasn't a mistake. I'm saying that their poor training, their poor judgment, their deceptive practices and tactics, the lies and deceitfulness, you have to put all those things, take all those things in account and look at the totality of the circumstances. That they not only did they not do their job properly, they lied. And in their lie, and in their lack of care, concern, and in the violation of their oath of office, a person died. You guys, they should be held accountable. Period. I would challenge anybody who challenges me on that topic. If you think that I'm wrong, I would love to hear your opinions. Please express it. I want to know why you think that these officers are not guilty. So they skated. Cameron pulled the ultimate trick bag and he finessed the jury. Look it up. The jurors were shocked or appalled about what he did, you guys. But the man, he's a made man, he's protected. What is the issue now? Brett Hankison is the scapegoat. He's the fall guy. He's the fall guy. Watching the trial, I was a little disappointed. The prosecutor didn't do a good job. Not only did Brett Hankison get on the stand and start crying, which I don't understand why. He got on the stand, he started crying. He was very disingenuous. Nothing he said was making sense. You could see the lying come out of his skin. His posture, his response. You know, it's disappointing, you guys. You know, lately, these last couple trials with these officers have been very disappointing. Will he be found guilty for wanton endangerment? You know, his bullet didn't strike Breonna Taylor, so I get it. Will he be charged? I don't know. Listen, at the end of the day, the citizens are looking at us and saying, hey, police, our expectation is here and you guys are operating up here or below here. You're operating below our expectations. And the citizens are under the impression that officers are better than what we're doing. Now, mind you, guys, I always have to preface this. We are doing really great. Unfortunately, we do have I'd say about 20%. It's not worth a damn. It is what it is. And they come in all shapes, sizes, and colors. All shapes, sizes, and colors. They're not worth anything, guys. About 20%. I'll stand on that. So anyways, you guys, that is the issue with the Breonna Taylor case as we see now. Did she get justice? Absolutely not. The mother got paid. The family got paid, of course. I mean, that's the part of it. Did she get justice? Absolutely not. Was the officer's reckless actions addressed properly? Absolutely not. They wouldn't even address that. They didn't address any reckless behavior on the officers at all. You know, this is what I'm saying to you guys. Every police department is not created equal. You have some departments that hold their officers accountable and some don't. You have some departments that are honest and transparent, and then there are some that are not. It is what it is. It's part of the problem. It's part of the issue that the citizens see. Again, this is an American problem. And then under that as well, it's also a community problem within the Black community, the issues that they have and the issues that are actually brought to the forefront about abuse of power. Abuse of power. So I was disappointed with the Breonna Taylor case, and I'm still disappointed. I mean, you know, I'm hoping that the efforts that I plan on doing and implementing my ideas will bring about some positive change and really, really have a positive impact for generations to come. So again, you guys, that's why I enjoy our dialogue and our discussions and hearing your thoughts on police reform and those things, because it also helps me, it sharpens me, and it also allows me to come up with new ideas and correct some old ones so that when it's time for me to present these things, you know, I have not only just my thoughts, but a reflection of the community, a reflection of this nation, and what people want to see different when it comes to law enforcement. Right now, there's a ban to end no-knock warrants. I'm kind of on the fence with it, but I understand and I respect why the people want it to be dismissed. There's a conflict when it comes to people's Fourth Amendment rights and then also their Second Amendment rights. So I get it. And until law enforcement can rise to the standards that the citizens are asking for, then maybe we got to do away with it. I'm fine with it. There's always a solution to fix the problem. And you guys, you know me, I'm always going to talk about the solutions. I'm going to bring the solutions, which I have great solutions. And it's on us as a profession to make sure we rise to the occasion to meet the standards that the citizens have for us. And with that, you guys, please let me know your thoughts in the comment section. And with that, good night and God bless.